everyone. My name is Julianne Meyer. I am the host of Own Your Wellness, and happy Monday. I feel like I was just here. I was yesterday for a wonderful special called Achieve Wellness. Hopefully you were able to watch that live. If not, you can catch it on my YouTube channel as well as E360 TV, all the usual places, Roku, Apple, blah, 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 all that stuff. But anyway, I was able to interview 5 co-authors with me, because I'm also one of the co-authors in the book Achieve Wellness, hence the title of the show, right? So they all offered something different and unique to the conversation of wellness. So I highly recommend that you go check that out. But anyway, enough about that. We are here today. We're going to be talking about sadness and the holidays. And, there's a few different types of sadness I really want to acknowledge. There's the kind that doesn't really make any sense. You just feel it even though everybody around you appears happy. Then there's the kind that you actually have something to be sad about. And then there's actual, I don't know, something is not going well in your life. And then there's actual grief. And grief is a tricky thing. And that's not really what we're going to be talking about today, because that's a lot more in depth. And I don't want anybody to think that, because they lost a parent, for example, that they're supposed to celebrate the holidays all of a sudden and be super happy. But the thing is especially if you have kids, you don't want to associate those special times with negative thoughts, feelings, and associations like that. So maybe we will touch on it just a little bit. But anyway, let's talk about this sadness that can just come over you in the holidays. It seems kind of inexplicable to some people. And if you haven't experienced it, I'm sure you know somebody who has, so maybe you can help them walk through that as well. So what I'm referring to is the kind of sadness that it seems like everybody around you is having a great time and the lights are bright and, the holiday, like Thanksgiving's coming. So people are preparing their turkey and all that. And you're just sitting there kind of feeling not much of anything, even maybe a little sad. And, that can be for a few different reasons. One is maybe you associate that time of year with, the end of the year, which is any kind of ending is going to be, you're going to have feelings about it. I don't care what it is. And I'm going to give you an example of something that has absolutely nothing to do with the holidays or anything like that, but you'll understand what I mean. I had a Mini Cooper up until recently. I loved that car. I mean, I loved it, loved it, loved it. And then it's been pretty much a lemon since I've had it, which is fine. But the last time it broke, it was going to be $8,000 to fix it. And the thing's only worth $2,000. So needless to say, I got rid of it. And I have an actually nicer car now. And I'm not paying any payments or anything like that. So, it's a step up in the right direction, but I'm still missing my car, my Mini Cooper. And I'm just a little sad about letting that go. And the reason why I'm bringing up this particular example is because it's just a car. I have no reason to be upset over that. It's literally a hunk of metal and plastic. So, the thing is it doesn't have to make sense why you're feeling the way you're feeling, but you should still always honor it, or I should say acknowledge it. You don't have to camp there. I looked at it and thought, that's interesting. Why am I actually sad? It had nothing to do with the fact that I was giving up it was the ending of that time of my life. So when people are dealing with the holidays, sometimes it comes up like it's the ending of something. And therefore there's a sadness that wasn't there normally. So it's okay to acknowledge that. Now, there's other times, like, for example, I've lived in other countries during the holidays. And if you're a big Thanksgiving person and you don't live in the United States, nobody around you celebrating Thanksgiving because they're not American. So now you're in this other country feeling a million miles away and there's nobody to celebrate with. And I know that sometimes you can feel that way even if you're in the United States. So, or, your family's across the country and you're out by yourself. These things happen. So I really want to talk about how to walk through that. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to say is part of the time, the sadness comes from the way you think it should look, the way you think it should be. And it's not measuring up to that thought in your head of what it should look like. That's usually where the sadness comes from when you're talking about the holidays in particular. That's a tough one. So here's the thing that I really want to acknowledge about loss and endings and sadness and all of that about the holidays is you're not alone. You're not the only one, and it doesn't have to make sense to anybody. Now, part of what you can do, and this is kind of fun, is I have literally had, you've heard of it before, like Friendsgiving or, whatever it may be. But here's what I'm suggesting for anybody who is maybe dealing with sadness. One is to let go of the idea that it needs to look a certain way, because it doesn't need to look a certain way. You don't have to feel a certain way. And maybe your idea of festive is different than somebody else's. Now, I have a friend, Sarah, who was on the show yesterday, Sarah Stockham. She's a Reiki master and an author and a teacher, among many other things. Wonderful soul. And she doesn't do Christmas gifts, but she loves to give gifts. But she discovered that it was too stressful and hard for her to do it at Christmas time. So she switched it to Thanksgiving. And I know somebody else who does gifts on Valentine's Day instead of Christmas, so that there's none of that pressure on themselves about having to get it to look a certain way and have to be done by a certain date, etc. It's kind of interesting when you can just sort of change what your idea of what it needs to be like, and all of a sudden the pressure lifts up, and so does the sadness. So it's kind of cool when you can you just sort of let go of it has to be this way. Because sometimes, like, for example, this year I want to go home for Christmas, and I don't know if it's actually going to happen. Drew and I were, it's okay. We can take the time off to go home and see my parents, but the weather's been so crazy that we might get stuck there. And I'm okay with getting stuck there for a couple extra days, but Drew really needs to get back to his clients. So it's kind of like, okay, how is that going to look if I don't get to go see my parents? That's going to cause some sadness, right? But instead of, and I'm using myself as an example, and I want you guys to fill in the blanks. And this is kind of like teaching, so that is as an example. So let's pretend like I don't get to go home and see my parents for Christmas, which I would love to do. I've almost always gone home for Christmas. What can I do instead that's going to be wonderful and festive and fun, so that I can focus on these things instead, right? So, for example, this year, we're going to go volunteer on Thanksgiving. That's something that you can do to help get you outside of yourself during the holidays, because when, helping other people cheers people, there's science behind this. Not thinking about yourself and reminding yourself that you're not the center of the universe really does help in alleviating some of the sadness that you may be feeling. So what my suggestion is, I'm going to give you a bunch of suggestions, is the main thing, though, the crux of what I want to say is that decide what you want it to look like. Decide for yourself. So, okay, great. It's not going to be maybe what you want, but what can you create instead in its place so that you feel festive? So maybe have a party with your friends over. Maybe do, like a secret Santa with people. Like I said, you could always go volunteer. These are all things that you can do in order to help yourself get out of this idea of being sad. And it's like I said before, it's okay to feel that. You're not alone. I just wish it wasn't so demonized. Like, what's wrong with you? It's the holidays. Well, a lot of people just don't feel like that level of excitement, and that's fine too. But like I said a million times, I'm going to say it one more time, is change your expectations. Let it go. Let go of the things that you can't change and create something that will be fun. So here's something that I did, which was really fun. When I lived in Canada, obviously they don't have Thanksgiving there. Well, they actually do. They just don't have American Thanksgiving. They have their own Thanksgiving. But I decided that I was going to do a Thanksgiving dinner because I lived in a condo. We had this huge, beautiful entertainment space that I could rent out. And so I handmade the invitations. I, embossed them, the whole thing. And it was kind of funny because, I invited, I think it was 30 people from the United States, across Canada, my friends. And I'm thinking, okay, so maybe I'll get like 10 or 15, because not everybody says yes. Hand to God, every single person I invited came. So it was like this huge thing. It was the most memorable Thanksgiving. People came from the United States to celebrate with us. And it was really, really fun. And that was probably my most favorite Thanksgiving. And it started out with me being completely sad because I was going to be away from my friends and my family. And granted, I could have probably just driven down and seen them, but for whatever reason, I just was feeling sad that year. So I decided to do something different. And so my point is that you can do something different too. Um, there's people that I was out the other night, and I'm telling you, it was like Griswolds. There were so many Christmas lights. I was thinking, if I was your neighbor, I would be so mad at you if I was trying to sleep. It was so bright. But I mean, it's not even Thanksgiving yet, and this person has up all their Christmas lights. You know why? Because it makes them happy. So my point is do something different so that you can enjoy yourself. So I know certain people, they decide to take the day to pamper themselves or be like a cat and sit in the house and, snuggle up with some hot cocoa and watch their favorite movie and, maybe pet their animals or whatever it looks like to you. It doesn't have to look a certain way for you to be happy. And it's okay for you to not be. But if you want to really change your mood, you can. You have the authority, the ability, any of that. So that's what I want to say about that. I just think that, it's such a beautiful thing to enjoy as much of your life as possible. Now, I'm somebody that has lost countless people, and I'm not that old. I've lost more like important people in my life than my dad, who is 78. And just to give you an idea, and I'm obviously a lot younger than him since he's my dad. Uh, and I could be sad. We all have reasons to be sad if we're looking for them. But I choose to look at what I do have. I choose to enjoy and be happy with the things that are going well in my life instead of looking at the things that aren't. And it does take practice. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say it's an easy fix, but start small, and you can be okay with that. And time is such a wonderful gift to give. And I just think that if you are dealing with something like you have kids and you happen to not be, I don't know, the happiest, and of course your children are like, Christmas, oh my gosh, or Hanukkah, depending on your faith or background. And you don't want to put a damper on their excitement. But you also know that they can see how you're feeling, and they know you well enough to know that you are not maybe the happiest. Here's the thing that I'm going to recommend. And this is something that works really, really well, is to be honest with your child. Be honest with them and say, listen, mommy or daddy, depending on if you're a man, it isn't really, the happiest right now, but I want to make sure that you have the best Christmas ever. And what can we do together to make it extra special? And it doesn't have to be toys. It doesn't have, just what can you guys do together? Because, my mom passed away when I was 13, and all of my favorite memories were not the toys and the things that she got me. It was the times like when she showed up at my school to chaperone an event that she didn't tell me she was going to be chaperoning. That's one of my most favorite memories. So, it's about the time. So I would recommend doing something like that, because then also to see joy in other people and bringing joy to other people makes yourself feel better too. So those are my recommendations for that. I feel like I've been chatting for a minute now. So I think it's time for some tips and some tricks. All right, some tips and some tricks. All right, so if you're like me, you enjoy your salad, and but you hate cutting it. I hate cutting salad, and I don't really like to buy the bagged kind, because there's always some like less than fresh pieces in there, or trying to wash it with my salad spinner. I know it says like triple wash, but I know what they wash it in, so I'm a little leery of that. So anyway, and I like I'm a little particular about my salad bits. And I know a lot of people out there they don't want them to be too big. So I actually got this gift from a friend of mine, Cami, who is amazing. Anyway, so it looks like a weird hat, but it is a salad cutter. So you put your salad, you can put it in this part here like that. Just pop it in there. And then you click on the bottom and it snaps in. Hold on a second. Let me snap it in. I should have brought a knife. Anyway, you can see where the edges are here. Right there, you put the knife in and you cut it, flip it over so that the salad stays where it is, and then you flip this thing from one side to the next notch, and blammo, you cut it one more time down the side, and now you've got like these perfect little salad bits. It's like the most amazing thing ever. You could have like this crazy good salad that's like the salads that you buy in the store, but fresher, especially if you go shopping at the farmer's market. Now, I do want to give you a tip and a trick about the farmer's market because I just thought of it. Okay, so here's the thing. I get this all the time. People assume that because you're buying something from the farmer's market that it's organic. Doesn't mean it is. If it doesn't say organic, there's a chance that it's not organic, because typically they will say that they are organic or not. All right. So here's the thing that I really want you to think about too, is go and speak to the person that is actually selling the food, because to get organic status is a huge process and it costs a lot of money. And not all farmers are big enough of a corporation or a business to afford to go through that whole process, but they do farm organically. So all you have to do is ask the person who is selling the items whether or not they're organic. And then there you go. You're totally set. You can get organic produce from the farmer's market that doesn't necessarily have the organic symbol on it, but you're good to go because it is actually organic. How cool is that, right? And I'm all about supporting local growers and things like that, because first of all, the fresher the food is, the better it is for you. So that's something else you want to think about too. That's why it's always best to eat in season for what it is that what you're picking up from the grocery store, because the second it's picked, it starts to die because it's not getting its nutrients the way that, it's like you stop feeding it. So just remember that. So if you're getting something from Uruguay, I don't know why I picked that country. Just remember, I had to travel all that way. Plus I had to travel on more than likely, planes, trains, and automobiles, but most likely a boat, most likely some sort of a semi. And think about all the fumes and all the things that it's going to collect while it's in transit. So you do want to try and go with organic, locally grown produce, but it's not always the easiest thing to do. So just remember, anything that I suggest is always going to be top of the line, but you really need to figure out where your budget is. And also, like what's important to you. Not everything needs to be organic. So something that is like, let's say an avocado does not need to be organic because it has a shell. A banana does not need to be organic because it has like the outside to it. Strawberries, blueberries, berries, it should always be organic if you can afford it. That's just kind of, and then there's like the Dirty Dozen list. It changes every year, but you can just look it up online, Google it. It's the Dirty Dozen and the clean dozen as well, the 12 that you don't have to worry about as much for. So if you can afford, if you want to try and save money, then you can just go to that list and take a look and see which ones are the most safe and then buy accordingly to that. So that's kind of just one of those fun tips and tricks about produce. I know it's kind of crazy, but anyway, let's go on to this section. Okay, fast food. All right, it's not really fast food, but this one actually could probably even fall under tips and tricks. All right, so have never been one for saying you should go without. I've never been one for saying don't eat this or don't eat that. There's obviously better choices for you than certain things, but I've never been one to say, good food, bad food, because it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. Because as soon as you start labeling things, then it's food should not take up that much of your time and your brain space, right? But let's think about treats. If you like treats as much as my boyfriend, he's my fiance now. My fiance Drew, as much as he loves them, he has maybe 3 or 4 coffees a day, and he'll always have a treat with them. And trust me, dude is in shape. So, it's not about never indulging. It's about indulging wisely and purposefully. It's not like he does it, like he just grabs a packet or, like M&Ms and eats them or something. He's very mindful about what he chooses to eat, but it's still a treat and a decadent snack for him, right? So anyway, I don't know about you, but most people tend to like chocolate. I'm not a huge chocolate person, but lately I've been getting into it. And then, so I'm going to back it up 1 second. There's an author, Michael Pollan, and in one of his books that I actually recommend people read, I can't remember the name of it all of a sudden, but anyway, one of the tips in there is that you can eat as much junk food as you want as long as you make it yourself. And so what this is about is I'm showing you little baby mini tins for muffins. So you can make muffins or cupcakes about that size. So look, it's a tiny little guy. Look at how tiny this thing is. I mean, it's not even like I have small hands. It's not even taking up that much of my hand. Now imagine having one of those little things as a treat instead. That way you're not going to overindulge, which is a really good way to give yourself the illusion of something like you are just maybe really treating yourself, but not actually going overboard with calories and sugar and things like that, right? So my fast food item for today is to make yourself a little snack that is like a decadent little treat, but use a smaller version of it. And I'm just using this as an example so that you guys have an idea that you can take a normal size something and make a little baby version of it to enjoy. All right. Well, it is about that time for commercials. So we'll be right back after these messages. Oh, but before we go, hello to everybody who is watching us live. Thank you so much for being here. And once again, thank you to all of you who were with us yesterday.
Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, my name is Julianne Meyer, and you are watching Own Your Wellness. And today we were talking about sadness in the holidays and what to do about it. And, here's the thing is you do have power over your moods. There are certain things that you cannot change in your life. But the thing is that we are always looking to fix the outside instead of dealing with the inside. And, if it's not one thing on the outside, it'll be something else. Like I'll be happy as soon as I get my raise, or I'll be happy as soon as I lose 10 pounds, or I'll be happy as soon as blah, blah, blah. But when you attain that next thing, if you haven't done the inner work, then it's going to be something else. It's always going to be something. It's going to be that elusive carrot that you're just chasing after. So the thing is what can you do in the meantime while you are working on that inner side? Because it takes time. I mean, that's just all there is to it. It takes time and diligence and, figuring out what works for you. But like I mentioned before, my biggest suggestion is, to change your perspective and let go of how you think it needs to look. That's the biggest thing that will help you with the sadness. One is acknowledge it's there. 2 is to let go of the perceived way you think it should be. And 3 is to create something fun for yourself. Now, if you're grieving the loss of somebody around the holidays, it's really tough, especially if it's the first one. Oh my goodness, I've lost so many people. And the first one of anything is always really hard, especially if you lose them around the holidays. But the first one is brutal. I mean, it's not fun for anyone. So I don't know, you may or may not have experienced that yet. But at some point you're going to, and it is extremely difficult. And some of the things that I have learned to do that helped me through the holidays are to honor those people that are no longer with us. So for example, and this is, like, to keep traditions alive. Like my mom passed away when I was a kid. So what will I do? I would maybe bake the cookies that she and I used to bake together in her honor. On her birthday, I might buy her a plant. Or, I might do something like, if you're a drinker, have a drink and cheers in their honor. Or I guess some people pour out the liquor a little bit in honor. I know that's a thing. But my point is to pick something that it means something to you, something significant. I know some people let balloons go. I know some people write their feelings and burn the letter. There's just so many different ways that you can choose to honor somebody or let go of something. But my suggestion is to just do something on the outside like that, so that you can keep their memory alive. Or if you're trying to let go of somebody, like I said, write out your feelings, burn that stuff, man. But anytime you do any sort of releasing techniques, make sure you end on a positive note, because if you don't end on a positive note, the odds are that you will not do it again, because your brain remembers it being negative. But if you can end on something positive, then you're more likely to do it again. It's just brain science. Okay. So I'm nerding out on you guys already. All right. Before we get to Ask Julianne, we are going to go to Okay, so in case you haven't figured out by now, am an avid reader. I love reading. I remember when I was a kid, one of my teachers, and now that I look back at this, it's kind of crazy. Our homework assignment, because I was in grade school, was to read 50 pages a day. I'm sure there were people who didn't actually do it and said that they did because it was kind of the honor code. But I did, and I'll tell you, it took me a long time, but I got fast at reading and I really enjoyed it. But here's the thing, the older I got, like my taste in books sort of changed, and I maybe wasn't reading fiction as much. And I really got into reading self-improvement books, books about, biographies, things like that, just things that are absolutely fascinating, learning type of books. So instead of suggesting actually, I'm going to suggest an actual book, but Time Warrior by Steve Chandler, phenomenal. If you struggle with procrastination, here's what it says at the bottom, just so you guys have an idea. How to defeat procrastination, people-pleasing, self-doubt, overcommitment, broken promises, and chaos. Now, I adore Steve Chandler. I think he's probably my favorite author. But the reason why I wanted to talk about him and use him as my example is people always ask me, how do you pick which books to read? Because it becomes, when you're reading books like Time Warrior, or you're reading about meditation, or you're learning about, I don't know, like Think and Grow Rich. These are all fabulous books. They're all fabulous. But what are you doing with the information? Are you actually doing something with it? Or do you just keep ingesting more and more and more information? So at some point, if you're reading about meditation, you're going to have to try it. You can't just keep reading meditation books and expect to have the effects of meditation if you never actually meditate, right? So first of all, try not to get so bogged down in the information gathering phase, okay? Because if you're not going to implement anything that you learn, then what's the point? So there's that. But here's what the point that I really wanted to hone in on is how when people ask me how I pick which books to read. So I will take an author like Steve Chandler. Like I recommended one of his books on another episode called Reinventing Yourself. It's a little tiny thing. It is phenomenal. It's an easy read. Steve Chandler, I mean, this one chapter is 2 pages. So it is an easy read. You can pick it up and set it down and read and complete a whole section, even if you have like 2 minutes. So anyway, my point though is that how do I pick who I'm going to read? So I found Steve Chandler. So I'll pick an author that I love, their message, that it resonates with me. And then I start reading everything that they've written. And then I read everything that they suggest or things that they've things that they have read that they would recommend to me. And that's how I find most of my books. It's like through that little, it just trickles out. Now, here's a really fascinating story that I just love to share. As I mentioned, I'm a huge reader and I'm at Barnes and Noble, and I have this little habit. I mean, as far as habits go, it's not that bad, but I will like impulsively buy like typically 1, 2, 3 books that I'm like, I just like the title. I think it looks pretty. It's got some message on, and then I have these books and I don't ever actually read them. I have every intention of reading them at some point, but I have literally 100 books that I haven't read yet that are sitting on my shelf. So, and I have a Kindle now. So, but my point is I picked up A Shift to Love written by Alex Mill. And that's a book that I actually recommended as well on the show. And I loved that book almost, if not equal to, Reinventing Yourself, which was written by Steve Chandler. This guy right here, this guy. And anyway, so I was doing the same thing. I did all this research. I looked him up online. I found his website and I applied to be one of his coaching students. And so we had like 2 one-on-one sessions, like an hour each. And he agreed to coach me. And so then we got down to the price part of it. Okay. And for 3 months, it was a large sum of money. And so I really was like, oh my gosh, I've never invested that much in myself ever. And I didn't have the cash. So I was trying to decide if I wanted to get a loan to pay for this coaching. And so I was still looking him up online, and it turns out, lo and behold, Mr. Alex Mill is a student of Steve Chandler, and they work together. So I was like, bam, I'm going to hire him to be my coach. And it was all because of Steve Chandler. I was like, what are the odds that those two actually even know each other or whatever? And I'm telling you right now, that money that in that loan, it's paid off now at this point, but it was the best money I've ever spent. And it was worth it. It was worth it because it changed the trajectory of my life. So for those of you who are sitting out there and you want to hire a coach and you feel like you don't have the cash, I'm not telling you to get a loan like I did. I'm not telling you how to spend your money. I'm telling you, if you feel the desire that it will make that big of a difference in your life, you could probably find a way. And to think about it creatively, maybe there's somebody that would loan it to you. Maybe there's like, I had an aunt pay for, and this was all her idea, but it was landmark education back in the day. And that was the turning point for me too. So you never know where the money's going to come from if you want to invest in yourself. So just don't be afraid to think creatively and see if there's a way that you can work with whoever it is that you want to work with. I wouldn't be afraid of the price tag is what I'm getting at. And like I said, that was a big chunk of money for me. It was a lot, but now I know that it was, even then I knew it was worth it. It was just scary to make that kind of financial commitment. That was a loan that took me a while to pay off too, but you know what? Like I said, it was worth it. All right. So anyway, that's what I was going to say is, if you're stuck, pick an author that you love, read everything that they do, and then sort of see, you can pick the same genre, or if it's like improvement in something, then you just pick what that author recommends and read those things. It's pretty amazing. All right, who is ready for some Ask Julianne? I don't know why it makes me want to sit on that lotus leaf and just do. All right, I've got the bowl. For those of you who are watching for the first time, my grandpa made this for me. And in it are a bunch of questions from either clients that I always get, and I've asked them to help contribute, or from you as viewers. And so I'm going to pick one and we're going to go. Let's see what we got here. All right. Is it okay to cook food in EVO? EVO is extra virgin olive oil. All right. So here's the deal. Extra virgin olive oil is a phenomenal quality oil that is good on things like salads. Now, it's not good to cook with because it has a low smoke point. Well, what is a low smoke point? When you heat it up, it starts smoking when it gets too hot. Now, why is that a problem? Well, it's a problem because when oil smokes, it becomes potentially carcinogenic. Now, obviously, carcinogens are not good for you, right? So you want to try and stay away from cooking. You have to be careful of the oil's smoke point. You want to pick something that has a higher smoke point if you're going to cook with it. So feel free to use it on your salads and in cold situations, but try to stay away from it with cooking. Now, there's a couple other like carcinogens that I want you guys to be aware of. Because it's kind of fascinating. Obviously there's certain things we smell and we're like, oh, pew, no, thank you. But a carcinogen, for example, that is not good for you is the smell of barbecue. Who knew? Who knew that was a carcinogen? And then the other one that absolutely floored me when I discovered it, and it's kind of sad, is well, actually, there's two of them, but one is that fresh, clean smell from the fabric softener. Unless you get a specific one that has like no like special sense, like as for sensitive and all that. But that fresh smell that you're smelling is a carcinogen, and you're actually hurting yourself. So just be aware of that. Same thing with air fresheners. Those are carcinogens. That's why perfume. I'm not telling you people that you need to give up your perfume and your air fresheners and things like that, but maybe consider some essential oils. Not to use the air fresheners all the time, because those are carcinogens. So you have to be really careful about, you don't just ingest things with your mouth, you ingest them through your nose, through your eyes, through your skin. So you are constantly ingesting things. And if you are having any sort of medical issues, this is something that you should take a look at and consider changing out in your home, because it will actually help you with your health. So that was a long answer for extra virgin olive oil, wasn't it? All right. Next up, let's see what we got here. Should I count calories? I love this question. I typically say do not count your calories. There are definitely exceptions to every rule. However, I don't believe in dieting. And watching your calories is just no way to live. Obsessing over your food is no way to live. It is really hard to actually overeat with fresh, healthy food. So if you are going to, I don't know, think about eating with like at home, you cook your own food. If you're going to buy food, you try and buy the least processed food. You don't have to count your calories if you're going to be doing that. Now, if you're eating a bunch of baked goods and things like that, you could be ingesting 1 million calories a day. I mean, but here's the bigger problem is you're not actually feeding yourself. You're not actually feeding yourself quality fuel. You're giving yourself calories, but you're not giving yourself fuel. You need to, that's why your vegetables and, your fiber and things like that are just so important. It doesn't matter how many calories as much as it matters the quality of what you're putting in your mouth. So focus on what you're eating as opposed to how much of everything, because I've never heard of anybody overdosing on broccoli before. Have you? I've never heard of anybody having to watch their water intake except for increasing it, right? So that's my recommendation. Don't worry so much about counting calories, because it is a really slippery slope, and it's so easy to go into disordered eating habits as well as eating disorders. And eating disorders hit men just as hard as they do women. So don't be fooled by that. They just don't talk about it as much because it's not socially acceptable. So anyway, all right. I love this question. What's one food item or ingredient you advise people to avoid? Well, here's the way that I look at food. Like I mentioned before, there's no good food, there's no bad food. I would never advise anyone to deny themselves anything. But once again, there is a difference between food and food-like substances. Now, I'm going to beat this into your head if it's one thing I could do. McDonald's is not food. It's a food-like substance. It has calories and it has ingredients, but it's not food. It's not feeding you. So please be aware that I would never tell you not to eat a chocolate chip cookie, but I would tell you make it yourself. I would tell you if you're gonna go buy them, then I would say just go get one. Get a quality cookie and enjoy it. For me, like one of my weaknesses is ice cream or cheese. I mean, I talk about this quite often actually, but I don't keep cheese in my, well, actually I do right now because I have somebody who likes to eat it, but I've gotten to the point now where I just stay away from it. Otherwise I will eat it all. And I mentally obsess over it. If I know there's cheese in the refrigerator, 9 times out of 10, I'm thinking about it late at night thinking, am I hungry? Should I go get a piece of cheese? I mean, that's protein, right? I could eat protein. Food should never be on your mind like that, right? But back to the ice cream thing. I will never go and buy ice cream from the grocery store unless it's one of those little personalized ones, and I eat that and then I'm done. So I'm not going to advise anybody not to eat anything, but I will advise you to stay away from food-like substances. So if there are things in there, if it can last longer than you without a wrinkle or mold, then you shouldn't be eating it. Like a Twinkie is not real food. Do they even make those anymore? I don't know. I don't remember ever seeing one, but then again, I don't go down that aisle of the grocery store. So my advice is eat whole foods, eat fresh foods as much as possible, and enjoy your treats when you have them, and plan your treats as much as possible. Don't binge eat your treats and then feel guilty about it, because part of the problem with ingesting those calories is that now you feel the guilt, the shame, and the sadness about it. So now you create cortisol and all these other things and chemical reactions in your body that cause you to gain weight, that cause you, it's like a perpetual cycle. But if you know that, like Drew, my fiance, he's going to have a little treat with his coffee, he's going to enjoy it because he's going to have, it's going to be this big, right? Or it might be have some protein, extra protein in it or something so that he can build his muscles. I don't know. Anyway, you get my point here. It's not about what to avoid, and it's also not about counting calories. It should just be about the quality of the food, because you don't ever have to worry about, eating 10 oranges. Nobody's going to eat 10 oranges, right? And if you do, then there's probably some sort of issue you need to take care of. All right, next question. All right. Oh, I like this. Is it okay to drink water immediately after eating meals? Now, I love this question because a lot of people drink a lot of fluids with their meal, let alone afterward. Here's the thing. When you are drinking like a lot of water or a lot of fluids and right after your meal, you are actually diluting your digestive enzymes, your digestive juices, as they say, and it actually slows down your digestion and it causes problems for it. So try to stay away from drinking a little bit extra during eating and also right after, so that your food has a better chance of digesting, especially if you're not a good chewer. If you're not chewing your food, then you're making it extra hard for your stomach and your intestines to digest. So I want to give you an idea about the importance of chewing your food. Think about your stomach. Like, if you were trying to chew your food with your gums and you didn't have any teeth, that's like your stomach trying to digest your food. It's like trying to gum your food. So just remember that the more you chew, the less work it's going to be as it goes down. Plus, you'll feel more satiated, and it's easier for you to digest. And the quicker you can pass it through your system, the better off you'll be. You don't want that stuff sitting in your colon forever. All right, next question. Ooh, okay. Eating organic is so expensive. What can I do? Well, we kind of touched on that a little bit. So like I said before, check the Dirty Dozen and see which ones you can eat that you don't have to buy organic. Now, the other thing too that a lot of people don't realize is that frozen vegetables are really good for you. There's technically more nutrients in them because they flash freeze them. So as long as you don't overcook them. But I mean, obviously there's advantages and disadvantages to both. But try and buy in season so it's less expensive, obviously, as well as go to the farmer's market. Like I said, you can get something that doesn't have the designation of organic. It's going to be less expensive because they can't charge organic prices. Otherwise, nobody would buy it, right? But they do farm organically because it is a lifestyle for them. So just do that or buy the frozen vegetables. Now, here's the other thing too is let's say you just really are on a tight budget. It's still better to buy vegetables that are not organic than eat processed food. It's still better to have a potato versus a potato chip. You know what I'm saying? So pick your battles, people. Pick your battles, all right? You understand what I'm saying? Just do your best. I know I love telling this story about how I couldn't afford organic blueberries, brain berries, as I love to call them. And so I would just buy candy instead. Where is the logic in that? Talk about, black and white thinking and silly. I mean, I look back at that and it's like, well, if I can't get organic, then, I just might as well. That's just dumb. I mean, It is, right? But I know I'm not alone in that. So that's why I always tell that story, so people know that even an expert like myself has made stupid decisions, especially when it comes to food. All right. Ooh, I love this. Okay, what are some healthy eat on the go snack options? All right. So, my recommendation for that is going to be to, if you can, do pick something that's like a protein and a carb combo and have like maybe 5 things available. But let's say you can't necessarily have like a piece of whole wheat bread and unsalted, all natural, half a tablespoon of peanut butter, for example, or like, yogurt with berries, because that's not necessarily a viable option for you. Things that you can think about, or you want to pick things that you're going to eat. Now, they may not be the most healthy things, but it is going to still be better than the potato chips, the candy, the honey nuts or whatever. I mean, the corn, whatever it may be, it's still going to be healthier than that. So my suggestion for that would be maybe, there's all kinds of like protein bars available. Like then there's like Bobos, which is, what's it called? It's almost like a cookie in a way. And it's yeah, it's almost like a cookie. So anyway, these are things that you could do. Something like that. You could always do string cheese, an apple, for example, just things that you're actually going to eat. Maybe some raw almonds. That's a go-to snack for me because it fills me up really well and I can carry it and it doesn't need to be refrigerated. But the point is that you need to have these things on demand so that when you're stuck somewhere, you'll actually have the chance to eat it instead of just, like, oh my gosh, if you get to the point where you're starving, you're not going to make a healthy choice for yourself. You're just not. I mean, that's when I get weak and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go to Taco Bell. I need a bean burrito so bad. Nobody ever needs a bean burrito, at least not from Taco Bell. Once again, we're going back to those food-like substances. Do you know that thing is like 360 calories and it is not even real food? So tastes good though. That's my weakness too. I love me some Taco Bell. I know, but I don't even remember the last time I had it. I try and stay away, right? Because I know what I'm missing. Anyway, that is basically all the time that we have for today. I just want to say, if you are dealing with sadness in the holidays, you aren't alone. It's okay to call a friend. It's okay to call a loved one. It's okay to reach out to a group. It's okay to, try and cheer yourself up with some festive music or, put up your decorations or do something really kind for yourself, something that feels decadent to you. Like for me the other day, I was feeling like I needed to feel rich. I needed to feel expensive because I was feeling bad about a situation. And so I went and bought some new socks. I'm telling you, I felt like $1 million after that. And it was just socks. So, I mean, these are things that you can do, right? Okay, so happy Monday, everyone. This Thursday, we have Garrett Wood coming on the show, and we're going to be talking about beating burnout. So please join us then and enjoy your week. Until then, thanks for joining us today.